This was my second visit to Acharacle in as many weeks, as there were 3 more walks I wanted to try, and here they are. I took the shorter route using the Corran ferry and stayed at the excellent Loch Shiel campsite again. Inspiration for the walks came from the Halliwell Pocket Walking guidebooks, which I can recommend. This first walk was a leisurely afternoon stroll across Shiel Bridge and taking the first right turn signposted Shielfoot. The road meanders following the river, and the 9 kilometres there and back is flat with no real challenges. Loch Shiel empties into the sea via the River Shiel, and there's a small falls between the so-called sea pool and the cairn pool where the two meet. At the end of the road, just after the post box, look out for a stile over the fence on the right and take the path alongside the river. At the time of my visit there hadn't been much rain for 2 weeks, so there wasn't much of an outflow from Loch Shiel, and as you'll see later, on a high tide the falls are completely underwater. Given that Loch Shiel is Scotland's 4th biggest loch and empties through this small gap into the sea, it must be absolutely amazing after a couple of days of rain. This second walk was definitely more challenging, not only because of the climb, but because the path was quite precipitous around the 3rd loch. At Shiel Bridge, take the A861 north for about 200 metres and look out for a gate on the left with a small white sign for Loch Shiel Estate and Loch Blaine. Ignore the first track to the left and take the second track, which is the path up to Loch Blaine. The path climbs through some very pleasant deciduous woodland, and then it's through the remains of a small gate to more open moorland. Then it's back into more woodland and coming out of the plateau of the first 2 lochs. The path passes to the right of Loch Blaine and continues on a ridge between the 2 lochs. Just look out for the remains of the stile and continue on the path to the right of the stand of trees. At the hawthorn tree the path turns right to the coastal Silver Walk. I took the left turn option up to the ridge. Now this 3rd loch isn't strictly a loch, it's actually a reservoir, but as you come over the ridge the view is stunning and the sea is visible in the distance. Now comes the only tricksy part of the walk, as the path passes above the reservoir on the right to the dam at the end. At the dam the walking becomes significantly easier, with the path following the old cast iron pipeline down to the road. The path also doubled as a stream in places, so waterproof boots are definitely recommended. At the road I turned right towards the castle and the car park. When I was last here it was low tide when I visited the castle, and I was able to walk across to the island and explore whilst keeping my feet dry. Not so today, and it would be a long way if you were stuck on the island. I retraced my steps along the road, and after the turn to the reservoir I took the right turn back down to the bay. After the row of houses, look out for this sign on the right and follow the path which leads to the cairn and sea pools, and theoretically the falls at the end of the River Shiel, as well as a fishing hut. It's a pleasant walk along the river to the White Gate, back onto the road, and then before you rejoin the A861 you pass the small bridge over the river and the calm fishing basin. This 3rd walk was only about 16.5 kilometres there and back, but with a height difference of 250 metres it took me 2.5 hours to get up to the loch and 2 hours to walk back down to the campsite. The views were outstanding. From the campsite I walked up the road past the school, through the gate and along the woodland track before dropping down to the marsh. Once across the marsh, take the first left towards the water treatment plant, but ignore the next left to the building. It's an easy path which rises and drops and then climbs to the water storage tanks on the right. Just beyond the tanks, the track continues past a locked gate. There are some gentler climbs and descents, but the real work starts once you cross the bridge over the river. The rusted gate marks the start of the real climb, and yet again it was locked, which I find a bit odd for Scotland, and left me hoping the emergency services had a key. The path isn't difficult, however waterproof boots are definitely a requirement. And then there it is, in all its glory, Loch Laga. And of course it decided to start raining, but fortunately not for very long. So after a quick snack and a drink, it was time to head back down the hill. If you want an epic walk, you can continue along the track to either Laga or Glen Borrowdale. The walk back for me was the same in reverse, however I was stopped in my tracks when out of the corner of my eye I thought I saw a couple of mythical beasts lounging on a rock. If you're considering a trip to Acharacle, I thought it might be useful to show you the village and the facilities, so here we go. Heading south, the only bit of footpath is from the school to the top of the village. Public toilets are next to the well-stocked village store. There's also a gift shop, a garage, fish and chip shop and Cafe Tioram. If you take the road down to the jetty, you can arrange to go fishing or on a cruise up the loch. So that's Acharacle. I spent 6 nights there in total and enjoyed 6 excellent walks. A brilliant place and highly recommended.